saying they just summoned Trump for nasty violation they accused him of. If Congress determines that an infringement has occurred, then, by Al Weisman for DailyVine.com, since the left wing in our country hasn't had much luck getting any kind of fake scandal or narrative to stick to President Trump, they have now taken to another route, the United States Constitution. A new lawsuit has now been filed by the Attorney General in Washington, D.C. and Maryland, which accuses President Trump for violating the Emoluments Clause of the U.S. Constitution. The clause prohibits elected officials from receiving any kinds of gifts or to benefit in any way from foreign governments without the approval of the U.S. Congress, and a summons has already been issued for the president in this case. The lawsuit goes on to argue competing businesses have been hurt in Washington, D.C. and Maryland because foreign officials have decided to stay at Trump hotels instead of competing properties in order to try to get good favor with the president, not unlike how many rich individuals chose to donate to the Clinton Foundation instead of other legit operations in order to garner favor with Hillary and Bill Clinton when Hillary was Secretary of State, and the sure thing when it comes to winning the presidency in 2016. You know, they have reached a new low, I might add. I was not expecting this. This isn't the first time this case has been brought up in federal court or explained by Politico. A federal judge on Thursday dismissed a pair of lawsuits claiming that President Donald Trump's failure to divest himself of his real estate empire and other business holdings violated the Constitution's provision banning receipt of foreign emoluments while in public office. U.S. District Court Judge George Daniels ruled that the two suits were flatly flawed because the plaintiffs failed to show injury directly related to the use of Trump's properties by foreign officials and governments. Daniels, who sits in Manhattan and is an appointee of President Bill Clinton, also said the issue was one that Congress should police, not the courts. As the only political branch with the power to consent to violations of the Foreign Emoluments Clause, Congress is the appropriate body to determine whether or not, to what extent, defendants' conduct unlawfully infringes on that power, the judge wrote. If Congress determines that an infringement has occurred, it is up to Congress to decide whether to challenge or acquiesce to defendants' conduct. As such, this case presents a non-justiciable political question. One of the cases dismissed Thursday was filed by Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, or CREW, along with a group of employees and owners of hospitality businesses like restaurants and hotels. The other suit, brought as a class action on behalf of members of the public, was filed by an individual New York attorney, William Weinstein. Daniels concluded that all the plaintiffs lack standing to sue. He also suggested that if foreign governments were patronizing Trump businesses as a result of his presidency, this wouldn't amount to a violations of the Emoluments Clause unless the president encouraged them to do so to receive some benefit from the U.S. government. It is wholly speculative whether the hospitality plaintiffs' loss of business is fairly traceable to defendants' incentives or instead results from government officials' independent desire to patronize defendants' businesses, the judge wrote. Even before defendant took office, he had amassed wealth and fame and was competing against the hospitality plaintiffs in the restaurant and hotel business. It is only natural that interest in his properties has generally increased since he became president. Daniels said that even if he ordered Trump to refuse any profit from any business with foreign governments or from state and local governments, that the president is not supposed to be paid by while in office. It was unclear how that would help the plaintiffs. Were defendants not to personally accept any income from government business, this court would have no power to lessen the competition inherent in any patron's choice of hotel or restaurant, the judge said. Crew claimed it had standing because Trump's failure to divest his businesses had caused the organization to expend resources it would have used elsewhere, but the judge said that claim was too weak to sustain the suit. The class action case claimed that Trump was violating promises he made to distance himself from his businesses, but Daniels said that kind of promise wasn't enforceable in court. We would likely be living in a different world if elected officials were legally bound to carry out the political promises they made prior to taking office, the judge wrote as he dismissed that case. In our democracy, once a candidate is elected to office, it is for the politicians and the people they represent, not the courts, to decide which campaign promises will be fulfilled and which will become abandoned rhetoric. The Justice Department, whose attorneys defended the cases on Trump's behalf, issued a statement Thursday night welcoming the judge's action. The Department of Justice appreciates the court's ruling and its conclusion that plaintiffs lack standing to pursue these claims in federal court, that plaintiffs' claims do not fall within the zone of interest of the Emoluments Clause, and that plaintiffs' claims involve political questions that cannot be resolved in federal court, said a department spokeswoman, Laura Ersam. Two similar suits remain pending in other federal courts. One filed by the state of Maryland and the District of Columbia is pending before a judge in Greenbelt. The other filed by nearly 200 Democratic federal lawmakers was filed in a court in the nation's capital. The judges assigned to those cases have not yet ruled on similar motions to dismiss them. One attorney for Crew and the hotel and restaurant plaintiffs, Deepak Gupta, vowed an appeal to the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. We respectfully disagree with the district court's decision, Gupta, or whatever his name is, said in a statement. There is no question that there will be an appeal, and our legal team is in the process of exploring our next steps. A Crew official called Daniels ruling a setback. Last year, Judge George Daniels of the U.S. District Court for the District of New York dismissed the case on lack of standing when he agreed with Trump's defense team, made the case that according to the Constitution, this matter would have to be resolved through a political process and not through the legal system. President Trump then said his business interests are to be put in a blind trust that would be managed by his sons Donald Jr. and Eric. The president's lawyers must respond to this new summons within 3 weeks of court petition. Man, these people are going for blood any which way they can get this guy. I mean, really? It is something. Too bad we conservatives are too busy working. We should have been filing lawsuits on Obama left and right, and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. Could you imagine? I mean, really, we should have been doing that. I mean, it is unbelievable. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.